That morning, the mist hung low over Sunrise Valley Ranch in eastern Montana when Robert Mitchell, the ranch foreman, spotted something that made his stomach twist. A pack of wild dogs creeping through the distant tree line, moving like shadows. 7 lean, desperate animals, ribs showing and fur matted, clearly starving after a brutal winter that wouldn't let up. Robert had been managing livestock for 25 years and had seen what hunger could turn animals into. These dogs weren't just wandering. They were hunting. "Sarah, get on the radio to the main house," Robert called to his assistant without taking his eyes off the pack. "Tell the boss we've got wild dogs moving in on the south pasture, 7 of them, and they look like they haven't eaten in weeks." About a quarter mile away, Charlie, the massive 3,200-pound Angus bull, grazed peacefully. At 5 years old, Charlie was in his prime, a towering black giant with powerful shoulders and an almost uncanny intelligence that earned respect from every rancher in the county. The dogs knew this too. Charlie was both their biggest threat and most valuable target. If they could separate him from the herd and bring him down, that would be enough to keep them alive for weeks more. But those dogs didn't realize one thing. Charlie had been the ranch's protector through storms, mountain lion attacks, and every danger Montana could throw at him. Sarah peered through her binoculars, watching the dogs spread out in a classic hunting formation. "That bull's fought off everything from mountain lions to bears," she said. "They're making a big mistake if they think Charlie's easy prey." Robert nodded. Charlie wasn't just any bull. He had this almost supernatural awareness of threats to his herd and a courage that never wavered. Still, 7 predators working together? That was a different kind of fight, one that would push Charlie's legendary instincts to their limit. The pack's leader, a scarred German shepherd mix with a torn ear, directed the others with subtle body language. These weren't random strays. They were a well-oiled hunting unit. Robert reached for his rifle, but knew they were too far to stop the attack once it began. The dogs had picked their moment perfectly. When the ranch hands were at their farthest from the herd, Charlie lifted his massive head, sensing the danger. His dark eyes scanned the landscape, focused and intense, the look of a guardian who'd never failed his duty. The wind carried the scent of predators closing in, and Charlie moved to place himself between the pack and the cattle he'd sworn to protect. His snort echoed across the pasture, a warning to the herd to seek safety. What happened next would test Charlie like never before, and show what true sacrifice really looks like. The pack closed in, and the only escape for the cattle was toward Miller Creek, swollen and treacherous with spring runoff, a river strong enough to drown even the best swimmer. Charlie knew this, but he didn't hesitate. Even against 7 starving dogs, he stood his ground. Have you ever seen an animal risk everything to protect others? What drives that kind of courage? Yeah, that happened here. The attack came fast, like a military strike. The lead dog barked sharply, signaling the start. 7 wild predators moved in waves toward Charlie and the scattered cattle, who had no chance to outrun them. Charlie positioned himself between the pack and his herd, a living barrier. His massive hooves pawed the ground, his head lowered, horns ready, and he let out a bellow that echoed across the valley like a war cry. The pack's strategy became clear. 3 dogs circled his left flank, 2 on the right, and 2 head-on in a classic pincer move designed to overwhelm even a giant like Charlie. "They're trying to confuse him," Robert said, eyes tight with worry, watching from the ATV with Sarah. "If they can get him spinning trying to face all of them, they'll find an opening." But Charlie wasn't fooled. He refused to chase one dog and get distracted. Instead, he backed toward Miller Creek, keeping the rushing water behind him so he couldn't be surrounded. His eyes tracked every predator like a general plotting a battle. The first attacker, a scarred pit bull mix, darted in to test him. Charlie swung his head with surprising speed. His horn missed by inches, but sent the dog leaping back. The IT wasn't a hit, just a distraction while the others repositioned. Sarah's voice cracked, watching Charlie's once shiny black coat get streaked with red from bite wounds. "They're trying to wear him down through blood loss." Robert pushed the ATV harder, but they were still too far to jump in. Charlie was fighting the battle of his life, alone, injured, and outnumbered. The pack sensed victory as Charlie's movement slowed, but they didn't count on his determination. The bull's hooves finally touched the creek's edge, the roaring water ready to sweep him away. But Charlie wasn't done. With the wisdom of a warrior who'd never surrendered, Charlie turned and plunged into the icy river. The current hit him hard, dragging him toward deadly rapids known to claim lives. Yet his powerful legs fought against it, swimming with a strength born of sheer will. The wild dogs stopped at the bank, howling their frustration. They wouldn't follow him into the dangerous water. Sarah called out, amazed. He's swimming like I've never seen a bull swim before. Robert reached the creek bank, heart pounding, watching as Charlie angled toward the far shore. The only place too steep for the dogs to follow. Seconds ticked by, and the rapids loomed. Charlie had maybe 30 seconds to reach safety before the water would take him. Come on, big guy, don't give up now, Robert whispered. The dogs had given up their hunt, thinking their meal lost. But Charlie hauled himself up the far bank, dripping water and blood, standing victorious like some ancient god of war. The pack's frustration was clear. They had thrown everything at this bull and failed. But here's the twist. Charlie didn't run away. Instead, he began pacing along the creek bank, positioning himself directly across from the dogs, like a general surveying the battlefield. Sarah gasped. What's he doing? He's safe. Why isn't he running? Robert smiled, awe in his voice. He's not abandoning his cattle. He's using the creek as a barrier while staying close enough to protect them. The dogs regrouped and started stalking toward the scattered cattle, now vulnerable without Charlie's presence. But Charlie's strategy was brilliant. He let out a thunderous bellow, a battle cry that echoed through the valley. Some dogs hesitated, confused by the authority in that sound. The cattle, trained to trust Charlie, began responding, slowly moving toward the creek bank. Charlie's calls were their signal. Come to safety. The pack leader tried to intercept, but Charlie positioned himself between the dogs and his herd, bellowing fiercely enough to force the predators to reconsider. Dr. Emily Watson, the ranch veterinarian who'd arrived with backup, watched through binoculars. That bull is conducting a tactical defense from across a river. I've never seen anything like it in 30 years. The wild dogs were caught, unable to cross the dangerous creek, and unable to attack the cattle with Charlie blocking their way. Even wounded and exhausted, Charlie's mind and spirit were sharper than ever. For nearly an hour, the standoff continued. The dogs grew desperate, frustrated, and disorganized, but Charlie matched every move with strategic positioning. Sarah noticed their growing tension. They've been hunting for hours and still haven't caught anything, and Charlie's denying them access. Finally, desperation pushed the pack leader to make a mistake. He led 3 dogs in a direct charge toward the cattle. Thinking Charlie was too far to stop them, Charlie's reaction was instant and fierce. He plunged back into the creek, swimming straight at the attackers with the fury of a protective father. The sight of a 3,200-pound bull rising from the water like a mythical beast shattered the pack's coordination. The dogs scattered in panic, their formation broken. Have you ever seen strategy and courage like that? What separates true bravery from reckless risk? Charlie's return marked the turning point. His legend was born. Dripping and battle-worn, Charlie stood on the bank, eyes blazing with determination, his wounds telling the story of a fight no one would forget. The wild dogs scattered, defeated. Robert watched, satisfied. Look at them run. They thought they had him, but Charlie showed them what real courage looks like. One last dog tried to attack a calf, but Charlie charged with devastating force, sending the predator tumbling with injuries that would keep him out of the hunt for weeks. Sarah called out, relief flooding her voice. They're done. Charlie broke their spirit. Dr. Watson tended to Charlie's wounds, declaring them serious but survivable. These wounds will heal, but what he accomplished today will be remembered forever. The cattle slowly returned to grazing, unaware of the epic battle their protector had fought. But for everyone watching, everything had changed. They'd witnessed intelligence, courage, and selfless devotion that challenged every assumption about animal behavior. Charlie hadn't just fought. He'd used military tactics, environmental advantage, and psychological warfare. He outthought a pack of predators while risking his life to save his family. Word of Charlie's heroic defense spread through the ranching community, drawing visitors from neighboring counties wanting to see the bull who defeated 7 wild dogs through courage, brains, and sheer will. Local wildlife officials took note too, using the story to develop new protocols for dealing with wild dog packs. Recognizing that Charlie's strategy offered a blueprint for non-lethal wildlife management, Davi